That's what you need to do as a trial lawyer, as a savvy marketer, is really get into the minutia and do those little things.
That's when it sort of dawned on me that, the most dangerous number in business is one.
You only have so many hours in your day. You can't do it all.
Here is my biggest regret. My biggest regret is...
The Earley Show will begin after a brief word from today's sponsor, Answering Legal. Visit answeringlegal.com to learn more about our 24/7 virtual receptionist team.
We were not getting back to people quick enough.
Answering Legal allows us to professionally reach back immediately. The system works for a small organization. Pure efficiency. I can be in a deposition, I can be on a plane, and I can see that intake come in through the phone message. And so I can reach back to that client within minutes.
It really turns you into an available lawyer 24/7. It's just been a quantum leap for us.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the episode of The Earley Show, sponsored by our friends over at Answering Legal. I'm your host, Chris Earley. I'm a personal injury lawyer in Boston. And as you know, each and every episode, I always bring you the best from the legal industry. And today we do just that. We bring on a friend of mine who I have a lot of respect for, Tim Semelroth. He's a trucking accident attorney out of Iowa. He's a guy who I've gotten to know through many hours of mastermind meetings, the conference trail, phone calls, working on cases together. He's a guy that is humble, and he also knows a lot. So we're all going to learn a lot. So as always, make sure you sharpen those pencils. There'll be plenty of writer downers of this episode. So Tim, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be on the show. I've learned more about the East Coast as my one of my kids is now out there in college, and so I'm hoping that I'll see you the next time in person.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think you're the first Midwesterner to be on the show, so this is a first. This is a big deal.
I find that whenever I speak at a legal conference, I say, how many people know somebody from Iowa? And a lot of times there aren't too many hands that go up.
That's good. I like that. All right. So I know a lot about you, but in case someone does not quite know you yet, could you tell us, let's start at the start. Could you tell us about growing up, where you grew up? Was it in Iowa? Your mom and dad, what kind of influences on you as you're coming up?
Sure. So born and raised in Iowa. My dad worked in a factory. My mom was a school teacher. I had never met a lawyer until I was in middle school. And it's kind of a funny story. I had a new social studies teacher. I decided that I was going to prank him a little bit. I super glued his chair to the floor.
Something I would have done back in the day for sure.
Yeah. And he claims at that point, he realized that he needed something to keep me busy. And so there was a flyer about a new academic competition called Mock Trial. And so he started a team at our school. And that's the first time I met a lawyer. And it's the first time I learned about what a lawyer does.
Yeah, I can relate. I don't think I really met any lawyers when I was growing up. It was sort of I grew up in a blue collar town, cops and firemen. There weren't a lot of lawyers around. So I can resonate, with your story. So mom and dad, two hardworking people. What was your biggest lessons you think you took from your parents?
Well, definitely, you have to work hard.
Mm.
And also the idea that you need to be humble. We were not a family where you bragged a lot about what was going on, but I'm the oldest of 5 kids, and
Okay.
the reality is that there wasn't an opportunity for any helicopter parenting. Once they took care of the basics, I lived the kind of the stereotypical 70s, 80s childhood where, I'd leave the house on my bike, as soon as it was light out, and I knew that when the street lights came back on, that I would need to get home.
Yeah, same. Grew up in the 80s, that's the way we were outside a lot. It's a little different now. I feel like with the new generation, it's a little different than it
Absolutely.
was back in the day. All right. So you found mock trial, right? And then could you take us, what led you to apply and go to law school?
Well, so I started to do mock trial. I enjoyed learning about what goes on in the courtroom. I did mock trial in middle school. I did mock trial in high school. I was pretty good at it. So when I went to the state tournament my senior year, one of the lawyers who judged us mentioned that he coached the college mock trial team at Drake University, and so he likes to joke that I came up to him and asked him if they offered scholarships. And so I did end up going to Drake. I was on his mock trial team. We won a national championship in 1990, and it was really that exposure to mock trial at that level, meeting a lot of kids who were thinking about law school, that really crystallized, the idea that I had in my head that maybe law school would be for me. When I was in undergrad mock trial, that's when I got focused and said, "Hey, I'm going to go to law school."
I like that. I like you found a path that you energized you and you went in. You went to law school, got through law school. Where'd you first work after law school?
Well, my first job was I clerked for a federal judge. And but the thing about law school that was really helpful for me was it helped me realize what kinds of work I didn't want to do and what kinds of work I did. So
Hmm.
my first clerkship was working for a small plaintiff's personal injury firm in Des Moines, and I loved that. I loved the working for people. Uh, you know, uh, a lot of our clients reminded me of my own family,
Right.
and so then I had that experience, and then I went to I clerked for a 400 lawyer firm in Phoenix 1 year. I clerked for a 40 lawyer general practice firm in Cedar Rapids. And then I did this judicial clerkship, and that exposed me to prosecutors, defense lawyers, civil litigators. And so all of those experiences helped me realize what I liked and what I didn't like about the practice of law. And so when I got done clerking, I knew I wanted to be a plaintiff's personal injury lawyer, because that was the work of all the experiences I had that resonated with me the most.
Yeah, it sounds like an affinity, right? Raised blue collar, right? And you're gonna go on, to represent good folk, blue collar folk primarily who need representation. So that's meaningful. There's purpose there. You didn't just randomly fall into that. It sort of there was some intention there because you found what you gravitated towards. I like that. So, what did you do after those clerkships? Where did you land after that?
So I I practiced law in my hometown. I didn't get very far. I made it, across town. Uh, Professionally, very similar. I was very intentional in where I went to work for my first job after the clerkship, and I've been at that firm ever since. So it was founded by two guys. I was their first associate that they ever hired, and ultimately, my partner and I bought the firm from them, and I parked my car in the same spot that I've been parking at for the past 26 years.
That's fantastic. Um, if I'm not mistaken, the slogan is "Fighting for Fairness." Is that right?
Yes, yes.
So I'd have to look that up. That's burned into my brain because Tim is savvy, sends out a paper newsletter routinely, and we can get into that. That's a very effective old school marketing tactic that is evergreen, but most lawyers honestly are too lazy to do it. They overthink it. Tim just he sends it out and sends it out, sends it out. He's been doing it for years. So that's why you do it. You get in people's heads. And you say there, right? You park you park yourself there, right? Like you just said. So So let me ask you this. So we met um, in a mastermind, and you are a guy who's different in that not only are you a really good trial lawyer who's passionate about that, you're also really good at marketing and you're passionate about that. Um, when did you get, so you landed at that firm many years ago, you eventually purchased, right? The firm. When did you get serious about marketing yourself at the firm?
Yeah, so it was an evolution because when I first started, this was a very successful small plaintiff's boutique medical malpractice firm. And yeah, like I said, the two guys founded it, and when I started, they just put me to work, and I was taking depositions and I was going to trial with them, and I never thought of where the cases come from.
Mhm.
Uh,
Sure.
what ended up happening was one of the partners, one of the founders, decided to become a judge, and so he left, and we had to find another lawyer, and so I brought in my friend Presley, who I had met in law school, who had been was just very successful as a trial lawyer on his own, and once he came in, we had this, now there was just the founder and the two of us, so we had to start looking into, okay, how does this place actually run?
Right.
And so we realized how much of our success and our destiny would be dictated by the quality of the clients that we would get. And it was around that time that there was some tort reform initiatives that were going through the Iowa legislature that were going to significantly impact medical malpractice. And that's where, you and I have a lot of the same uh, marketing and business mentors. And that's when it sort of dawned on me that, the most dangerous number in business is one.
Indeed.
And
No question.
you can't, you're definitely playing with fire if you only do one type of case, only get your cases from one source. And so a lot of the energy that I had spent up until that point, just learning how to be the best trial lawyer I could, going to, CLE conferences and reading books, I then started diverting some of that energy into, hey, I've got to learn something about marketing. And so, I started reading books and going to conferences, and then ultimately participating in masterminds, which is how I met you.
Yes, you're exactly right. You and I have a lot of the same, we met in the Ben Glass world, in the mastermind. And then you've really built up a serious practice, serious trial practice. For referrals, do you get mostly attorney referrals, client referrals, and the 50/50? How does that break down?
So in 2024, this is how it breaks down right now at our firm. So uh, we divide where our cases come from into three buckets. And so we have attorney referrals, which is approximately 25% of our cases. We have word of mouth referrals. So these are referrals from non-lawyers, but it's where somebody's like, hey, you know, you represented my neighbor, or a guy at work recommended you, or something on those lines. And that works out to be about 35-40%. And then the remaining 35-40%, depending upon the year, is from what we call general marketing. So that is, they found us on the internet, or any of our general marketing initiatives. We do just about everything. We do some TV, we do some billboards. We sponsor community events, and so all of those things. We if somebody comes in and they're saying, "Yeah, I saw your name," or "I found you on the internet," or "I saw you on TV," that goes into the marketing bucket.
I like that. Now, what you have is a great marketing assistant, right? Kelly, she's been with you for a number of years. How long has she been with you for?
Oh gosh, I think it's been if it's not 8 years, it's pretty close. And so,
Wow.
yeah, she's our marketing director. And the way it started was I had been running all of our marketing. So just about anything that you can imagine marketing wise, I did first. So, I, I started, I managed our Google, pay-per-click campaign until, I realized that that wasn't a good use of my time and found a vendor that I trusted. I wrote everything on our website until, I realized that, hey, come up with a better way. And so we had, we were growing, but it was a very gradual growth pattern in terms of cases. And probably the most significant thing that we did that caused that to change was hiring a marketing first a marketing assistant. Now she's our marketing director because she has and because I had plenty of ideas, but because I have my own trial practice, those ideas would always be hijacked by, whatever trials coming up, whatever depositions coming up. And so once we had a dedicated staff member who could make my ideas, turn my ideas into reality, that's when you start seeing more significant growth.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more. My slogan, call it early before it's too late. We're just leveraging the hell out of that, Tim. I wear that slogan everywhere. It's on billboards. That came from a marketing assistant who was then in college. She was with me for a very short time. I mean, we just literally learned from the United States Trademark Office this week. It's been officially trademarked.
Awesome.
And so what you just said is smart. I hope people were really listening because you realized you could only get you only have so many hours in your day. You can't do it all, right? A lot of us lawyers think, oh, we can do it. I was going to do it as good as me. I think you probably had to get through some discomfort, delegate, to Kelly, pour into her your philosophy. I've seen you, and she has passion for this. It's clear on LinkedIn. I've talked to her, met her person. She's passionate. So you want to find someone who actually likes marketing. There's a lot of people out there that do like marketing. There's not a lot of Kellys that will, stick around for 8 years. So you're doing something right. You both are doing something right for such a nice, successful marketing partnership. But yeah, agreed. You have to get some help because it's a no-brainer if you're really serious. It sounds like you had that growth. You're pointing your hand upwards. That's upward slope happened after you added Kelly to the mix. It's kind of like an accelerant onto this onto this fire. And so I can't agree with you more. Tell me this. Tell me. I know you're very intentional with your marketing, right? You speak a lot. You publish a lot. I just want to go back to your newsletter. When did you start doing a paper newsletter, and how many people does it go out to?
So, gosh, when did we start doing it? Probably around the time Kelly started, because it was on my to-do list forever.
Yep.
Like, you and I, we read the same Dan Candy books. I knew that was important, but the reality was if implementing the newsletter was up to me and my schedule, then it was going to be a very sporadic thing. And so once Kelly started, that was one of the very first projects was, okay, let's set up a system so that we can be publishing this every month and get it out to the people who need to get it. So, it's been about 8 years. We're up to about 9,000 people.
Wow. Every month?
Every month.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
And so, one of the things that, I'm proud of in 2024 is, I mentioned that 25% of our cases come from attorney referrals. Well, we did an analysis that was sparked by a discussion at a mastermind about, don't just look where the cases come from, look where the money comes from. And so we realized a little over a year ago that even though only 25% of our cases were attorney referrals, they were generating, 40, 50% of our income.
Better cases.
Yeah.
Much better.
And so then we started thinking, okay, what can we do to better market to other attorneys? And so one of the things that started in 2024 was a newsletter specifically to other attorneys. That's an idea that, again, a smart guy named Chris Earley had been doing for years, and I knew I wanted to do at some point, and we were finally able to implement it, and it's just taken off like wildfire.
Wow, that's awesome. I appreciate that. So you just dropped a name earlier, a name that really changed my approach to business and marketing and operations, Dan Kennedy. For anyone who doesn't know, Dan Kennedy is a very famous info marketing expert. He is a guy who has sold products online. He has built up corporations, advised corporations. He's a very savvy marketer. And I highly suggest reading every one of his books cover to cover multiple times. Tim, I just found a book this week on Amazon. I think it's his newest book. It's called Automation, No BS Automation.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get into that. So my favorite book, if I know you're an avid reader like me, and sort of backtrack 1 second. At a mastermind, you gave everyone in the room probably about 25 books. It was the Checklist Manifesto, right? Is it Atul Gawande, I want to say?
Yes.
Why did you give that book out? That was generous and thoughtful. Why did you give that book out to all those lawyers in that room, that Checklist Manifesto book, which is a highly acclaimed book?
So the reason why is because it's one of the most impactful books that I've ever read, both for my law practice and for just running a business. Atul Gawande is a surgeon, actually in your neck of the woods in Boston.
Yes, right. Yep.
And he wrote this book which is based upon the understanding that complicated human endeavors are now beyond what any one person can keep in their own brain.
Yes.
And so if you're going to do things at a high level, it is unreasonable to think that you can remember all of the important steps. And so Atul Gawande, who's a fantastic writer, this book, I mean, you can't put it down once you start reading it. Gives all of these examples from all of these industries about how to really take things to the next level in being professional and doing great things well every time you need to use a checklist. And so when I think I got that book long ago enough that I think I listened to it on cassette in my Honda Accord as I was driving around Iowa as a young lawyer. And so I immediately went back, and it's like, okay, I got to make a checklist using, Atul Gawande's method for how to prepare for depositions, how to prepare for mediations, how to prepare for trial. And so as you mentioned, I do a lot of CLE speaking. And so there was, I can go back and look at my old CLE speeches, and I've given a CLE speech on, using checklists in almost every aspect of litigation.
That's awesome.
That was a big thing I was doing in the early mid 2000s. And so it was one of those things where, we were in a group and you're coming in and you're sharing this great stuff that you're doing. And I just, I said, hey, read this book. It's going to help you run your business better.
I love it. It's very generous. Thank you. Great book. Highly recommend it. It's just the power of the small. You have to really focus on the elemental elements of the whole, right? Or else planes crash. But you said buildings fall. Surgery result in a death inadvertently because one item was missed. And that's like the attention to detail. That's what you need to do as a trial lawyer, as a savvy marketer, is really get into the minutia and do those little things perfectly, right? As best you can. And the checklist can hedge against mistakes. I just want to share for the audience, just go back to Dan Kennedy. He's very formative, very influential on me. The book that really moved the needle for me was his No BS Time Management for Entrepreneurs. Whenever I speak in front of audiences, Tim, I recommend that book. I don't know if many people buy the book, but it's like a total, I know you speak that language, right? No one schedule phone calls, cut the meetings down, get out of your inbox as much as possible. Delegation. That was a really good book. That was my favorite Dan Kennedy book. Do you have a particular book that you found resonated with you more than some others, perhaps?
Yes. So for me, it was magnetic marketing, which was, I think, Dan Candy's first big mass marketed project. And the reason why it appealed to me is because his style of marketing is built on education-based marketing.
Yes.
And so maybe it's because I was, I'm the son of a teacher. My wife was a teacher. My sister's a teacher. The idea of being able to share information that I knew could help people really resonated with me.
Yeah, it's so important. Um, so you're like me, where back in the day you would turn the knobs with your Google PPC. You had that knowledge that you gained. I did that for years until I delegated. And I wrote about this today on LinkedIn, Tim, about SEO. You can't just hand over your credit card to an SEO agent. You got to know a little bit about SEO and what you're buying, what reasonable expectations are. I learned from a coach of mine. Whenever you hire a vendor, you want to have accountability meetings, just touch points. I mean, for 30 days. Hey, how are we doing here? Are we on track? Right? We're nearing the end of 2024. How do we do? Do we hit these numbers that we talked about in January of 2024? And so I just want to recommend to the audience really understanding, if you're serious about getting cases as an attorney, understanding SEO, understanding PPC. I spent so many hours, Tim, under the hood of PPC. And I think it's really important that if you're serious about marketing your law product, you got to know this stuff, right? You can't just, you got to do the work. You got to do the work that Tim does, that I do. And I think that's really important. As we've, said, a lot about marketing. Are there a couple of things you did along the way that were just misses? We've all burned money inadvertently at times. So there's just some approaches, philosophies, tactics you tried that just didn't work for you and you sort of dusted yourself off and moved on? Any marketing mistakes?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Live events are really hard. And so an example of a live event that just bombed for us was in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. They had a Christmas parade, and it went right past our office. And I thought, we have this big lobby because we're in this 13-story building, and I think we had less than 10 people show. We had more people working the event than people showed up.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to get people to show to these things.
Yeah.
It's tricky. I know a lot of lawyers, they have events all the time. I've had that event where I've had 5 team members there and 2 clients showed up. Awkward, but, and then you got to persevere, else you got to put the kibosh on that. So I think it's important, and again, I think we're dropping a lot of Dan Kennedy, but he's very instructive in many ways, right? He's what led me to Ben Glass, who led me to Charlie Mann. And so this, you can relate, right? That trajectory, your growth, you're thinking outside the box. Ben Glass, his big thrust was get out of the legal profession for ideas, look outside the window, man. And I started to do that. And I started to get cases because I was disruptive, right? Dan Kennedy's the ultimate disruptor. Education marketing, oh no, that's BS. Why do that? No, it's all about me and selling. No, it's about you helping, giving value. That's how you help. That's how you generate cases. If you do it from an authentic standpoint, it's even better to actually help people out. I think that's really important. No matter what marketing you're doing, what value can you give? So, all right, you learn that lesson with that event. You speak a lot, and as do I. Tim, I'll speak to 5 people or 500. I don't give a crap, right? I'll get in front of any audience, preferably attorneys. And what I do is I share some stuff that's working, right? I'll probably steal it from someone else, an idea here, there, everywhere that just is a hodgepodge of ideas that it has worked for me. So I'll share that. So encourage, the audience. Don't just share with clients, share with attorneys. I post every day things I'm doing in my business. Some things work, some things don't. I would have done that like 7 years ago, Tim. I can't share with John down the street. He's going to take my cases. It doesn't work like that. You actually get more cases that way, right? And I know you understand because you subscribe to that. You walk the walk. And so I'm fascinated by speaking opportunities. So I actually love doing it, which I think I'd be saying years ago when I would have thought of doing it. How do you get your speaking opportunities both locally and across the country?
Well, a lot of it is organic in the sense, because I'm a past president of the Iowa Trial Lawyers Association. I've been on CLE committees for the Iowa State Bar Association as well as the trial lawyers. And so, when you're putting on those events, ultimately, you get roped in to speak about this or speak about that. But a lot of it, I think, is you have to, if you do a good job, it definitely spreads, because putting on
Yep.
a conference is hard, and you want somebody who's going to come in and over deliver. And so
Yep.
you do that a few times, then people talk, but also you got to put yourself out there. You got to let people know that, hey, I'm open to doing this. And I'm very intentional. It's easy as somebody who, likes to try cases, anytime you put me in front of an audience, I enjoy that, but I don't take every speaking gig that I get offered anymore. I try to be a lot more intentional.
Sure.
I want to make sure that either A, it's a topic where it's given me the opportunity to do a deep dive into a subject that I want to know better, or maybe I want to do some writing on, so I can crystallize it in my own head, or B, it's in front of an audience where I think that I'm going to make good connections. And so I love my state trial lawyers association. If they ask me to do something, I'll do it. But the reality is that I would much rather speak to the family law lawyers or lawyers, or because those connections are particularly valuable, because they'll have cases that they probably need to refer to my office.
Oh, no question. I love the strategic, intentional approach, right? Yeah, you could talk to a room full of PI lawyers, nothing wrong with that. But if you can get in front of estate planning lawyers, family law attorneys, then it's a different audience, right? But again, every audience is good because everyone knows a few hundred people at least. So think about the math. You put 100 people in a room, there's maybe a million potential, connections there in that one room, potentially. So here's what I do. I contact bar organizations all the time, locally and nationally, right? One just turned me down. And I was kind of like, oh man, but I'm still going to go to that conference because I could network, and it's close to Boston. So still going to go out there and meet people, right? And I'm going to be obnoxious and wear a branded sweatshirt when everyone else has a suit. I know that's different. Maybe it's Dan Kennedy-esque, being disruptive, but someone may say, hey, I see you on LinkedIn, or I get your newsletter, and then we can have a conversation, and just, like you have to be bold and put yourself out there and get to these events. So here's what I do. And some may know this and some may not. I always like to get people on my attorney newsletter list. So for anyone who wasn't on it, please go to practicetipoftheweek.com. Tim, I believe you do get my email.
I absolutely do.
So I encourage you, go to practicetipoftheweek.com, sign up. And so when I speak in front of an audience, I will have a QR code. So, hey, if you enjoyed the presentation, I gave you my best stuff. I hope it helped you in some small way. Please, if you want to carry the conversation, scan that QR code. I'd love to get you on my list. And lawyers are skeptical. And so I need to sell it in a way where it's a no-brainer, right? And I know you're very similar. List building, another Dan Kennedy, Banglass truism is, getting that your list together. And I think a lot of lawyers fail to do that. You have to get that list. So I segment, I'm sure you're no different. I segment clients from attorneys because I give attorneys different content than I do clients. Attorneys is more like, I don't know, maybe substantive. When I'm doing my practice clients, it's like, here's highlighting a team member, right? Or something that happened in the office. What's your greatest challenge now? You're busy trying cases, a lot of trucking. Let me ask you this: what percentage of your caseload are trucking accidents?
Personally, right now, for me, it's 90%.
Oh, wow.
So I mean, my firm has changed a lot since I was the third lawyer who was part. I mean, we now have 17 lawyers, and we have offices in 3 different cities in Iowa.
That's awesome.
So
I love it.
We have, again, getting back to the idea that 1 is the most dangerous number. We made a conscious decision when we purchased the firm from our founder that we were going to diversify and not just be a medical malpractice firm. So we have lawyers that do personal injury, medical malpractice, nursing home, abuse and neglect, workers' compensation, social security, disability, plaintiff's employment work. If there is, that's why, we are the largest plaintiff's firm in Iowa. And the reason why is not because we're a mill that, takes every case that calls, but because we have lawyers who specialize in all those different areas. And so once we were able to build up our bench, I was able to look at, okay, well, what is the work that is most exciting to me? And I realized that, the cases where I was getting to do my best work and that excited me the most were commercial motor vehicle cases, trucking cases. And so just like you, I, as a learner, the first thing I wanted to do was I went to a truck driving school in Montana, that they have set up for lawyers so I could drive an 18-wheeler. I started attending every conference I could. Ultimately, I got board certified in truck accident law. I think at the time I was one of the first 50 lawyers in the United States to be board certified. I'm still the only board certified truck accident lawyer in Iowa. And so all of those things have allowed me to really specialize and limit the cases that I'm working on. And I like to think that because of all this specialized training and knowledge that I have, that I'm able to do better than I ever have for my clients. But it's also a lot more fun. It's more fun to dive deep than it is to, jump from lily pad to lily pad with cases.
Well said. Yeah, you're a forever learner, right? You like to geek out on this stuff. I love to geek out on this stuff. It's passion. We found what we're into, and like, what else can be better than that? You said 17 lawyers. How many non-lawyers in the firm?
35, 40. It's kind of a gray area because we also use remote workers in some capacity, and we have some part-time people.
How many cases do you handle at one time?
Me
Yourself? Yep.
I try to keep it to under 15.
No, that's great. Big cases,
Yep.
right? 90% trucking.
Yeah.
So you've scaled the firm. Let me ask you, what's been your greatest challenge? Because we all, get smacked in the face. What has been your biggest smack in the face, your biggest challenge scaling up your firm?
Well, I had to get past the idea that I had my fingers on the pulse of everything that was going on.
Yep.
That the curse of being a lawyer, right, is that we think that if you give us enough time to study, that we can become the masters in everything. And, one of the biggest hurdles that we have to overcome is the idea of when you're faced with the problems, I'll just do it myself. And so
Worst thing you can do. It's the worst thing.
absolutely. But the challenge as we scaled up was realizing that things were going to go on in the firm that I had no idea about. And and so that's where you have to rely on your systems and your culture to make sure that that you can stand behind the work that your firm is doing, even if you're not personally involved.
So Iowa, a small state, right? You have to there's only so many accidents, right? You and I are working on a case. I thought of you were the first guy I thought of, right? We're working on a case, and I appreciate you getting involved. What percentage of your cases, sorry to get too in the weeds, I'm just curious because you're obviously have, done the reps in the gym and figure a lot of this stuff out. What percentage of your attorney referrals are from out-of-state lawyers like myself who have a case in Iowa versus in-state Iowa lawyers referring to cases?
Right. So, I mean, if you look overall in terms of all types of cases we do, the majority are referred from other Iowa lawyers. But in terms of trucking, because, I'm on the board of regents of the Academy of Truck Accident Lawyers, and I speak at trucking conferences around the country, I would say almost half of my trucking cases are referred from lawyers from outside the state. And, you talked about, wearing your branded stuff to conferences. If I speak at a conference, one of my goals is that everybody knows I'm from Iowa. And, if that means I have to, put up a slide that, it used to be I would put up a slide with Field of Dreams on it, and I would
Nice.
I live, I live an hour south of where this was filmed. Now I just put up a slide of Caitlin Clark and say,
Things change. Yeah.
"You're welcome,
Yes.
Erica." Iowa's finest right there. But that's my goal. I want anybody who hears me speak or who I meet at a national conference to say, "Hey, I got a guy in Iowa, and his firm, practices all across the state. If he can't help me, he probably knows somebody that does." But my hope is that if people get involved in a trucking case and it has an Iowa component to it, that I'm the first person they think of.
I love it. That's a great, you're leveraging your assets, right? You're in a state where not a lot of people. You're my only friend in Iowa, so who else was against the case to? It was a no-brainer. I knew the client would be taken care of. So absolutely. We just had Joe Freed on the podcast. He was two guests ago. It was so long and so robust. We had broke up into two parts. He said back in the day, he's a very savvy B2B, marketer like yourself. He said back in the day, he initially laughed at like a truck accident lawyer. What the heck is that, man? Are you kidding me? But now things have changed, right? There's a level of nuance, sophistication, specialization. And so I like what you're doing is you're geeking out. That's the way to success. Go, very deep and very, very wide, right? Because you're not just personal injury lawyer, truck accident trial lawyer, right? And that's really good. Niches the riches. So I thought that was really interesting how Joe shared he's vulnerable. He, things really change. And he travels too. He came to Massachusetts, to speak. And so opportunities open. So I encourage you, get out of your office. If you can get in front of as many audiences as you possibly can, great value in that. But no one is confused where you're from because you make it. You have to be spoon feed it to them and don't assume that they know you from Iowa. Keep talking about it, right? And then it just sort of kind of seeps in, I feel like.
Absolutely. If I haven't made that clear,
shame on you.
that's my fault. And so, one of the platforms that, I'm constantly trying to figure out what's the next thing that I want to try to master. And in 2024, it was LinkedIn. Because I never paid any attention to LinkedIn up until because I always viewed it as a place you'd go to get a job, and
100%.
job for 26 years. So but enough smart people, were telling me, hey, really cool things are happening. Real important connections are being made in LinkedIn. And so I was very intentional about it. I think I told you that I'm a big fan of the Udemy platform for online courses. And so I bought like 6 of those, and I would watch those while I was on the treadmill in the morning. And I came up with this plan. It's like, this is how I'm going to get good at LinkedIn. And now what I love about it, and you probably do this anyway, but I'm very intentional. When I go to a conference, if I hopefully I picked a good conference where the speakers are great and I'm getting all kinds of valuable nuggets that I'm writing down. But on those occasions where maybe the speaker isn't telling me something that is new or interesting, or I'm in between, I'm looking around the room and I'm saying I'm writing down names. And I'm like, all right, because I want to connect with all these folks on LinkedIn. And if you connect with me on LinkedIn and you read 5 of my posts, and at least 2 of them don't specifically mention that I'm from Iowa, then give me a call because I'm screwing something up.
I want to share a tip I just learned. It was a Boston Bar Association networking event. I was on the panel, and this is a little LinkedIn hack. Maybe you know about this. I didn't know about it. So if you, what you can do is you go to LinkedIn, you go to the search tab at the top. There's a like a QR code type thing on the top right. You click that, and someone can scan the QR code and go right to your LinkedIn. You can connect instantly to a conference like that. Just a little hack I learned. So again, go to the search bar, QR code, scan it, and you guys, gals, are connected immediately on LinkedIn. I thought that was really, really impactful. Yeah, I'm very upfront. I'm unabashed, Tim. I came on the platform a few years ago onto LinkedIn. It's a great opportunity. I met great people. Great opportunities have spawned. So if you're not on LinkedIn, you're already late, right? So get on it today, like Tim is doing, leveraging that fully. Let me ask you this. Do you have any regrets in business? I have too many to go through. I've about 100, for the younger lawyer, things that you did. I know you mentioned the marketing, thing that didn't hit, the Christmas time. Any regrets looking back? Maybe a younger lawyer could maybe avoid that pothole.
Oh, absolutely. Uh,
Where do I start?
yeah, yeah. And any way that you can waste money or
Same,
I've done it. But
same.
here is my biggest regret. My biggest regret is I didn't start maintaining my list until I had been out for 10 years. And so when you think of the principle that, what all other things being equal, the people who will hire you are the people who know, like, and trust you. I had been making connections with people in college, in law school, in the first 10 years of my practice, where I had represented many clients. And I would like to think that of those people that they knew me, that they liked me, and hopefully they did me, because I tried to do good work and be a good person in all those different areas. But I did nothing to maintain those connections, and I did nothing to capture those. And so if I could go back in time, to the 1990s, other than telling Tim about some very questionable fashion choices that he was making,
Yeah.
and obviously, suggesting that he buys Apple stock.
Yeah.
The valuable thing I could say is, hey, get all these people that you're on teams with, or you're in classes with, get their names, get their addresses, and at the very least, send out a holiday card with that letter that I thought was so cringy when I was that age, where people talked about what they had been up to for the year. I mean, that is something. And so it's the old adage, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is tomorrow. And so, if people haven't started creating their list of people who know, like, and trust them, that's the most important thing you can do, because that's where the great cases are going to come from.
100%, right? They again know you, like you, trust you. And I gotta underscore this, is that I don't care if people unsubscribe to my emails.
Yeah.
But a lot of lawyers no, taking it, I can see why that'd be kind of an ego, deflated, oh, I guess I'm not good enough for you. Now that I'm looking at my unsubscribes, I don't really care, because frankly, there's not a lot. There was initially, because it whittles down the people that want to hear from Tim and Chris. It drops to your kind of believers, people who actually care what you're talking about. That's you want to communicate in your email marketing, your this and that marketing. You have to talk to people who want to hear from you. Otherwise, you're just wasting money. So list building, I think I waited 13, 14 years, Tim. I didn't even know what a list was. Well, why would in case you're going to come to me, I don't need to do that. No, I was very wrong on that. And then, not doing enough. I didn't do enough networking. Now I'm, constantly, but I think you really need to network, get away from your computer. I heard the saying once, I think it was Seth Price, who said, nothing good happens behind a computer monitor. So get out of the office, right? And go meet people. I just want to go back to the conference circuit. You and I go to a lot of conferences. Will I see you at the Trial Lawyers, National Trial Lawyers in Miami in January?
I'm not sure yet if I'm going to be able to fit that in. I already know that one of the things I'm trying to do is not just travel for work, but also, we only have one kid left at home. And so I need to do more traveling with my wife. So I think we booked something around that time.
Awesome. It's even better. Good for you, man. That's even better. Good. And so I just want to share it with conferences. A lot of people may do this. You probably already do this. I like to get a list of attendees beforehand. So when I'm on the airplane, oh, Tim's going, great. Bob's going, Jane. So I'm intentional, because like you, I have a family. I'm leaving my family, spending a lot of money in a hotel. want to get the most out of this freaking thing, right? This little thing, it may sound cheesy. I like to, you know, I think the real value is in the hallway, frankly. Like the speakers are great. Like you said, you get a nugget or two, but the real value is in the connections. I like, this may sound ridiculous. Oftentimes I'll stand in the doorway because everyone has to go through the door. So it's like, I'll wear my Brennan sweatshirt. Oh, Early, hey, we're connected here on LinkedIn. So I'm gonna squeeze that lemon, right? I left my family, spent a lot of money to go to this thing. I'm gonna freaking work it, because I'm definitely like very social at these things. Where at home I'm not social otherwise. So it's my time to be like gregarious, So it's fun. I enjoy it.
Yeah, no, a couple of things just to piggyback on that. One is, I mean, if you are going to a conference and you're eating room service, then you're doing it wrong.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like I have gone to conferences with team members and, they're just, I exhaust them. They're just like, are you kidding?
Literally, you do. You're not even kidding.
Yeah. Breakfast in the morning, and then you're going to go, people are going to night tap after dinner, and you're going to go to that too. And I said, I try to explain, it's like when I'm at a conference, I'm working and
Right.
and
Totally.
that's the advantage. The other hack I'll give you for LinkedIn, because this intuitively, because you put a lot of time into your presentations. I know when I'm going to go hear a Chris Earley presentation at a conference, it's going to be first class.
Oh, thank you, buddy.
And so the thing is that so have most of the other presenters. They have a pride of authorship. They put a lot of time in. And so I'll draft a list of the other speakers and we'll try to send a note, even or great job, you should- because nobody's ever gone on followers on the office lot, and it's good to hear from people. Yeah.
No, you can't grow with that approach. You're always, you're doing these little things repetitively that add up to big things, right? Doing the reps, right? Doing these things, and that's just what it takes. It's hard, but it's very easy, right? Just get her done. You don't overthink your stuff. You don't overthink your marketing stuff. You're not be wedded to one marketing asset. And one thing you do, I like, you send you bring Kelly, your marketing director, with you. So now you're exponentially growing the firm, not just you being saturated. She's being saturated with ideas and you guys are learning. That's smart, right? I need to lean into that more. I have not leveraged my team members enough, bringing them to conferences. Sometimes like, I don't know if they want to come to this thing. It's out of state, it's 1,000 miles away, but I like to think that they would, because they're growing. And I think that's really good. A couple of questions as we wrap up. I want to ask you, is there one particular book that's had the most profound impact on your life?
Oh gosh. I mean, we've covered a number of them. Let's just talk about a book that I've read in the past year that's impactful. And that is Dan Martell's Buy Back Your Time.
Great book.
It had been recommended to me. So here's the thing, Chris, I'm around a lot of smart people like you. I get good ideas all the time, but for whatever reason, I have to hear it like 3 times before that. And so I can't tell you how many friends said, "Oh, you got to read this book. You got to read this book." And so I grabbed it and it was sitting on my desk. And then I had a trip and I started reading it, and like I was on the airplane and I was shaking because I'm like, so good.
Yes.
And so now, it's like I come back, I'm buying it for my partners, and I would say this to, I mean, it has many life-changing strategies, but if you have a executive assistant, virtual or in person, or you are considering getting an executive assistant, you absolutely should read this book, because it gives you the right mindset for the best way to leverage that person, the best way to train that person. And so we're going to a mastermind meeting right now, and I knew that people didn't have that book, that good book I'd be handing out in 2020.
A no-brainer, right? I have one. She's super smart, savvy, organized. She helped us facilitate this. I bought back my time. Love emailing you, Tim, but it's like I'd rather not do the setup stuff. I'd rather have the conversation with you and not like the lead up to it, right? With the organizing. So buy back your time. What motivates you? That's a nice softball question.
Yeah, that's because, I would have said, it's like, well, I want to provide for my family, and be able to, to give them the life that they deserve. And that drove me for a long time. But, thankfully, I feel like I'm well on my way in that past. So, I've been reflecting to provide for the family. That's a work in progress. I mean, I could attribute a lot of it to my ego, right? Which is, it's like I want to, if I do something, I want to do it well. But and obviously, you don't get into plaintiff's work if you don't have a servant's heart or servant's mentality. But I don't know. I spend, my biggest hobby is I coach mock trial teams. The thing that introduced me to the law. I coach middle school and high school mock trial teams.
Very cool.
And I think there is just something so exciting about doing things. Pursuing excellence is really what is what is exciting to me, and I love to see that in a team where they just together commit to, hey, we're going to be great at this, and that's the kind of energy that I like to be around.
I love that. Pursuing excellence. I think you're doing a good job at that. So keep at it. Appreciate your time. Appreciate the insight. How can people get in touch with you?
So LinkedIn, connect with me on LinkedIn. I promise you, I post, anywhere between, 3 to 6 times a week. They are hopefully posts that are either interesting or helpful to lawyers, and in particular, people who are running their own practices. So connect with me there, and I promise you that I'll do my best to give you value there. If you need anything in Iowa, fightingforfairness.com is our website, and you can contact me through our website. And like I said, if we don't have a lawyer who can help you with whatever legal issue you have that involves Iowa, there's only 3 million people in the entire state. We know somebody who can. So give me a call. You got a guy in Iowa.
You definitely do. Highly endorse Tim. He's a good guy, great lawyer, a good friend, good person to know. All right. Thank you, Tim. I appreciate you. Thank you for coming on. That's it for this episode of The Earley Show. Be sure to check out more episodes of our show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the Answering Legal YouTube channel.